Welcome back to The Vocalist. Today we are listening to Tool again, this time with the song Lateralus. Here we go. Okay. Since this is 9.5 minutes long, I know I need to be strategic with my pausing, but I also don't want to forget the things that I find interesting. So this musical opening, I love the diminuendo we're getting in the guitar when there's like that repeated note. And then there was something very interesting that happened, that triplet pattern that comes in. It's so faint at first. That's why I had to sort of, I wasn't sure if I was hearing it correctly or if it was some sort of outside noise because it was so small. So I'm going to try and find that. Oh, do you know what? It's right here. I want to try and get, at least when I first hear it, I don't know if I'm not hearing it early enough because it's so soft. Even there, oh, has this been happening the whole time? I don't know now. I was so captivated by that diminuendo in the guitar. There, I think that's the first time I heard it, around the 28, 29 second mark. That triplet pattern comes in. It doesn't sound like an actual instrument. It's almost like just someone, maybe even like tapping on a desk or something. It's so faint. But yeah, that guitar diminuendo on the same note. I think the reason I'm enjoying it so much is it's not something I get to experience very often in a lot of the contemporary music we hear today, and partially because, when you only have 3 or 4 minutes of a song to catch someone's attention, sometimes it just gets packed full of a lot, and there isn't time for this much nuance. And so even though, yes, this is going to be a very long piece, I think it's giving them the opportunity to do so much more and really create a much grander, more intimate experience. I know those two words seem contradictory, but hopefully you get my meaning. I'm just gonna back it into him singing. This isn't the first time I've heard any sort of like mixed meter from Tool, and I just love that they do that. I find it so interesting. They do it in a way that you can still like groove to it. You can still rock out. You can still enjoy it without trying to catch the downbeat. It's so very strategic and yet so interesting because they're giving us that variety. Again, not even 2 minutes in. Okay, 2 distinct verses, I'm calling them. I don't know the entire structure of the song yet, so we'll see. But he raised the dynamic level just a hair. There is a smidge more presence in his tone. It's still very warm. And I'm saying warm in the sense that I feel that there is some airflow coming through. It's not a super pressed sound, but just enough variety, just enough change to highlight something very different. And I'm really excited for how this is going to progress. I'm glad we got that shift that was so sudden because I wasn't sure if I was going to have to go back to compare those vocal styles. This particular section that we just heard, while it does have a very monotone quality to it, we can still, like, there is still some movement of pitch, still some variation in melody. It feels so luxurious, partially because of how minimal that pitch change is, but also because his phrasing, while yes, you can delete breaths in editing and whatnot, it just doesn't feel like his breath is interrupting his phrasing. So I'm gonna play a little bit of that again, and then we'll get back into this new section. Like, even there, must. I mean, I don't know if he did breathe. I'd have to watch, a live performance, but it didn't interrupt the phrase. Like, there was a pause, and it just felt like it kind of connected it, almost like a bridge. So there is, oh gosh, I love this because I don't know that I was picking up on the intensity of this sound at the onset of his entire vocal line because that was the only thing I had heard. But now, after hearing that really luxurious, somewhat legato phrasing we had in that last section, this, even though it's airier, it's warmer, it's softer, it feels like there is more intensity. And I'm not sure, gotta play it again. I think part of that can be attributed to his diction. But I need to like listen to the phrasing too. Okay, sorry. I'm like trying to wrap my mind around this because just the way he says black and white are, we're getting the glottal, all I see, both on all and are. There's a decent amount of separation, really crisp diction, like I mentioned, so I can understand black and white. I think the other part of the intensity comes in the orchestration, the instruments, and how this particular piece feels, or this particular section feels so much more percussive because we're not getting a bunch of guitar or anything like that. It's obviously percussive because we're hearing the drums, but that percussive nature also makes the it just kind of like highlights the vocals and gives them that feeling of intensity. All I see in my infancy, red and yellow, then came to be. I didn't comment on this earlier, but there is something else happening here that is not just his voice. And I don't know if someone else in the band is duetting simultaneously. I don't know if he went in and recorded a second vocal track. It's very gravelly. It feels very low, and I just can't tell because my ears are really focused on the melodic line. I can't quite tell if it's just spoken or if it's intentionally very low yet still sung. It sounds more spoken because of the amount of texture we're getting. In my infancy, red and yellow, then came to be reaching. But I also can't even fully distinguish any text. So I don't know if it's just this. It could be in the instruments. It also could be a hum. I don't know what's happening, but I'm not hearing a second voicing in regards to the actual words because like any of the ending consonants, they're singular. There's one ending consonant. I'm not hearing any sort of layering there. So I don't, if you guys know, let me know what's happening because something's happening. I can't put my finger on it, but it's adding this really gorgeous bass effect. What exactly is creating that? I don't know. Now to me, lets me see there is so much more and beckons me to look through to these infinite possibilities. As below, so above and beyond, I imagine drawn outside the lines of reason. Push the envelope, watch it bend. I also think in this section, and it happened previously, along with that added press we're getting, I do feel like he's creating more space in the mouth, whether he's physically opening his jaw or if it's more lifting of the soft palate, giving that sort of yawn sensation to create more backspace, open pharyngeal space. There's something that feels taller and broader in this sound, even though my initial impression is just, or the thing my ears are latching onto is the added press. Actually, let me play that back again. One word like intuition, I feel like that was much taller than saying intuition. we're not getting a full out scream, but there is more texture along with this press. So when you think about adding volume, sometimes we do that with air pressure. Sometimes we do that by, using more muscle and getting the chords firmly pressed together. Sometimes it's a matter of resonance, but in this case, I feel like he's definitely using more air pressure because every singer's different. But that seems to me one of the easiest ways to both amplify sound and increase texture, because it's just, you need some kind of separation in the chords in order to get textured sound, whether that is full out screaming, whether it's that velvety sort of warm sound we hear at the bottom, any sort of passing of air through the chords enables more texture as opposed to just a really clean onset. I always like to use my little quotes because clean, I think, is a very subjective term when it comes to vocals and very opinion based, but in my mind, clean is just full press. Like, you just don't hear any sort of air, any sort of texture. So, the mix on this, I was like, what else was I gonna say? I just really, and this is not the first time either, I remember having this feeling previously with another Tool reaction. I just so enjoy the mix because while I can distinguish the vocals, I can hear them. Obviously, I'm talking about them. It's so much easier to enjoy the piece as a whole when I can really hear the instruments, when I can hear the guitar and hear the drums and the bass, and it's so well balanced. I don't feel like one overpowers the other. I feel like the vocals are literally another instrument that are not trying to be the focus, but trying to be a part of the ensemble. And another thing, you just don't hear that often. So it makes my ears really work a little harder to hear what he's saying, what he's singing, but I don't have to work as hard to pick out what's happening in the instruments because they're really not in the background, and I just really enjoy that. This is a perfect example of that balance I talked about. It really is unique. I'm just kind of envisioning like these two waves of sound that are literally on the same page and just sort of weaving in and out between one another, because sometimes I'm hearing the guitar more and then other times I'm hearing the vocals more, and it feels like a beautiful pairing and not one reigning supreme over the other. Feel inspired to fathom the power. That's okay. So I'm trying to tune into the vocals a little more. This last line, he's giving, it's not the sort of monotone approach that we heard previously. Let me Like, feel inspired. I feel like he is almost accenting a little bit, and then this last tiny little crescendo, I think on the word fathom. So this is just a smidge higher than what we heard before. Naturally, the voice will get a little bit louder, but there's a lot of control here. He's not just letting it rip. And I think, again, that it goes back to what I assume they were trying to do with the levels and really creating an ensemble instead of a vocal piece backed by instruments. Let me get that transition again. I just love when they strip everything away and like, what, 9.5 minutes? Like, why not just kind of like restart every once in a while to just, I hate to say wake the listener up because I've been very much awake throughout this, but you know, sometimes when you get a song that has any, I don't know, it's very calming to me. And so sometimes our minds wander, and it's nice to kind of be reminded to stay in the present and really tune in and listen again. So if I had this on, you know, in my apartment while I was just doing some other kind of work, I think these moments of pause and deliberate simplicity would help me stay with the music. I can't tell if that's a guitar effect or if that's actually his vocals right here. You guys will have to let me know. I'm leaning guitar, but they've done such a good job of, you know, intertwining the two that now I'm not sure what I'm hearing. Oh, I gotta get that again. These transitions are so good. Oh, I love what they do with timing.
Sounds and open wide to suck it in.
I'm gonna back it up just a smidge. I don't know where he's breathing in there. I have to watch this live if there's, a recording out there, because it doesn't sound like he breathes, but obviously, I mean, I'm trying to think of how long I was listening to that for. I would imagine he takes a breath, because the other thing I'm hearing is there were a few consonants where he really allowed some air to be released. And so whenever you're thinking about breath utilization, it's a lot of strategy. Usually we have smaller phrases where we can plan accordingly, breathe at the beginning, breathe at the end, call it a day. But sometimes when you have longer phrasing in any piece, we all tap out toward the end. So you have to be strategic at the beginning, not to release all of your air, but you also have to be very strategic with your consonants and how much air you're allowing them to release as well. So there were a few moments where I felt he was allowing that air to be released more so with certain consonants. So I have to assume he was breathing at some point. But the mix is so good. His phrasing is so good, even though, phrasing is not just how long you can last. It's more about what you're creating. Are you creating an arc? Is there a dynamic shift? Is there separation between notes because you're breathing, because you're pausing? Does that interrupt the phrase? Does that connect still? There's a lot more involved, and the way he sang this just made it feel like super long. I like the rounding of these sounds. I really love what they did with this piece. I know I haven't heard a lot from Tool, but what I have heard, I have just found to be so captivating. When you see a timestamp that's over 9 minutes, at least for me, sometimes I get a little nervous because I want to be focused. I want to be involved and excited, and there are definitely pieces in the world that I would probably find boring, and that's just a matter of personal taste. But they do so many interesting things. Dynamic contrast, the layering, the mix with the vocals and the instruments and how they are balanced. Did I already say timing? I'll say it again if I did. I mean, it's so enjoyable because there's so much variety, and this is a beautiful example for the singers out there that you can do so much in a very, very small part of your range. We did not span the entirety of his range in this song. It was very compact, and yet his phrasing, his pronunciation, the textures, he did so many things to make it interesting. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for this recommendation and for watching with me, and hopefully I will see you next time.